All right, we are talking all about DISC today. So that's our topic. We're going to be talking about personality, why this is important to know, and how this can really change your people skills. So thanks for being here. I'm going to make sure that we're live in all the places that you guys can see me. Comment, say hi, let me know where you're joining us from or joining me from. There we go. Let me go ahead and get you some stuff up here. Um, I'm going to add our workbook there. This is the workbook that is the 20 questions to change your life. And if you want to grab that, it'll be in the show notes too, or you can grab that here. These are really will work you through how to shift where you are. So that's really what we talk about here is how do you move from where you are into being in your best place, in your best life, where you're kind of stepping into what you know is possible for you, but you maybe haven't really experienced yet. And guys, this is a journey. We're all on this. I work on this. This is not like there's no place where you arrive, right? I think when you arrive is when it's like you're dead. But we're going to talk DISC. And so I did a training yesterday, a really short one for our Hey Girl You Can community on our Connect and Network event. And then tomorrow we're doing a really deep dive into this. So if you're a part of our community, you can access that through your portal. You can join me live or you'll get the replay. If you're not, you still have time to join. Like today's the day. Go join and then you can join me live tomorrow for this. So what is DISC? DISC, it's the way you communicate. It's the way you communicate with other people and the way they experience your communication. And this was developed back in the early 1900s. They now have people who get trained in this and they teach about it. And you can, like I was trained by a guy, Bill Cantrell, who like was an expert in DISC. He, I guess, was certified or whatever through that. And so I've taken tons of classes on DISC over the last 28 years. And it was really, when I was really young, it was interesting because it was kind of my first introduction to personality tests or into anything like that. And so let me just go ahead so I can see your comments. Okay, hi. And so I didn't really understand that it was just the way I communicated. So when I took the test, there's 4 types DISC. And I came back as a really high D. My chart actually was like D was up here and then it dropped straight down and straight across. There was like nothing else. And so I'll go through the four styles, but I was really upset because I thought that indicated like what my values were, what my priorities were. And I thought there's no way those are not my values and my priorities. But it really has nothing to do with that. This isn't like an Enneagram or a Myers-Briggs or a love language or your, 5 drivers or anything like that, 5 basic needs. This is just how do you communicate with people and how do they communicate back with you? It's kind of like what language do you speak? And so if you speak French and you're trying to talk to somebody who speaks Spanish, there's a problem, right? They're not going to understand you. And so successful people, one of the things that separates really successful people is they have really, really, really high communication skills, people skills. They're able to communicate with lots of different types of people. And so if you really want to be very successful in whatever it is that you're doing, mastering your communication skills, mastering your people skills will take you there. I remember I share this story quite a bit. I was sitting with a mentor of mine. I was in my early 20s and she had built a multi-million-dollar business. We were having lunch in her home. I had got invited for qualifying for something. And I asked her, I said, what do you think separates you and all of the other people? Kind of the people who are at the top, but not all the way at the top where you are. And she did not hesitate. She did not blink. She did not think about it. She said, oh, it's their people skills. And that really hit home for me as a very young woman in my 20s, that people skills were that important. And so I believe that DISC is part of your people skills. Now, if you want, there's a free DIS assessment. There's a lot of different ones online. There's one particular one that I really like the best. It's the one that I give to my team members and the women that I'm working with. If you comment DISC or if you DM me DISC, I will send you the link to the test that I like the best. Okay. And it's free and you can take it and it will tell you. So just comment. And I will get that to you. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, I will put it in the show notes so you can find it there. But that is what I like the best. Okay. And again, there's lots of different ones, but this one I think has been really, really accurate. So, 4 personality styles, 4 ways that you communicate. So, a D is a dominant personality. So, I am a D. Ds are fast and we talk about facts. And so, very direct. Okay. Then you have an I. And I always think of the I as the influencer. She is the party person. She loves people. She's probably like a cheerleader. She loves, there's always a party. She's really connected with people, has high energy. It's kind of a sparkler, right? She's a sparkles everywhere she goes. Now, C's are compliance. And interestingly enough, the majority of people, at least the majority of women, are C's. They're very steady eddies. I always think of a C as a steady Eddie. They like security and safety, and they're a little bit lower energy, and they value people. They're people over facts. And then you have your C, and a C is like compliance or something like that. But I never think of it that way because I think of it as a P. I think of the C as a P. Why? Because it's a perfectionist. It's somebody who's very detailed oriented, very much a perfectionist. But uh, they tend to be really critical of themselves and other people. And I don't meet a lot of actually openly with working with lots of women. And coaching a lot of people. I actually don't meet tons of C's. Usually they have, they're like this and maybe their second one is a C. But they're also very fact oriented. So why is this important? Like, why are we going to do an entire Hey Girl You Can Grow class on this tomorrow? Because when you understand how you communicate, number one, you'll have a better understanding of how people perceive you. Sometimes like we don't realize that what we do is either off-putting or something to somebody else, right? And so I think really there's a lot of value in that saying, know thyself, know who you are. Because when you know who you are, then you know how you operate in the world, how you move through the world, and how other people experience you. And that is valuable information, right? Also, because once you understand, and again, this is what we'll do in the class tomorrow, once you understand how to determine what somebody else is, then you'll understand how to communicate with them better. All right. Like, so as a D, being a dominant person, I know that a lot of people have said, I can be very, well, it's interesting. No, I'm from New Jersey. Nobody in New Jersey ever said this, but when I lived in Colorado, people would say I was aggressive because I'm just very blunt. I'm like, I will tell you like it is. I don't have a lot of like tact when it comes to stuff like that. It is just here's the facts, right? And so I have a partner who is a little bit more, like a lot more of a C. I'm sorry, of an S. And so that can be really off-putting to him because he's like, why are you like being so mean? I'm like, I'm not being mean. I'm just telling you like it is, right? But that is something to be really aware of because when you're coaching and working with people, if they're not also as direct as you, that can really, push them away. That can really make them feel unseen, unheard. Even just your speed, if you're with somebody who speaks a lot slower than you do and you're really going a mile a minute, which I already do from Jersey, but then add that to my communication style, sometimes people are like, I don't even know what that girl said. She was talking so fast, right? And so I remember being told that if you wanted to master being really, really great with your people and communication skills, you needed to become chameleon-like. What are chameleons? Chameleons can adapt to their environment and become like their environment. So if they're in a place where there's a lot of greenery, you put them in there and all of a sudden they're green, right? But if they're laying on a stone, all of a sudden now they adapt and look like the color of the stone. It's a really cool evolutionary, trait. Really cool. Well, imagine if we could be like that as people, if we could adapt to the environment that we are in. So if you're at a networking event and you're trying to connect with somebody, hey, if you're trying to connect with somebody and everybody there is like D's and I's, and you can adapt to being in that environment. But if you're in a different environment where everybody is an S or a C, you can also adapt to that environment. So it's almost like learning lots of languages. Somebody who can speak 7 languages has an advantage over somebody who only speaks their primary language that they learned as a child. I can only speak English. That is it. I will tell you, that puts me at a disadvantage versus somebody who's bilingual or somebody who can speak multiple languages, right? And so being adaptable and being a chameleon is not being fake. And I think this is where we have to be really clear. This isn't like faking who you are. This isn't pretending to be somebody you are or not in order to manipulate or coerce people. This is about being adaptable so that you can adapt in any situation with the people that you're there or dealing with in a way that makes them feel comfortable, right? So that you can speak to each other with clarity, so that you can communicate better, so that you can get your points across better. Now, this could be in personal or this could be in your professional life. Let's talk about in your professional life, right? So let's say you have business where you have to onboard a client. Well, if you can speak her language, it'll be easier for her to onboard. Let's say you have a business where you do discovery calls and people are deciding whether or not they want to work with you. You might be amazing at what you do. You might be able to totally help this person. But if you're speaking such a different language than her, she may not feel like you don't really get her. You don't really understand her. She doesn't feel heard. She's like, I'm not sure I want to work with this person. But if you can speak her language, she's more likely to feel connected to you. Okay. Um, let's say you have to deal with a customer and you have a customer issue that you're dealing with. Well, if you can speak their language, you'll get a better result out of that maybe customer problem. All right. So it's being adaptable. Now, this is also really important in your personal life, because in your personal life, let's say you have to go to the school and you have to deal with a teacher, or you have to have a meeting with the principal, right? And if you can speak their language, there's going to be a stronger communication. You're going to be heard. You're going to be understood, versus if you go in and you're speaking two different languages, you may not get what you need out of that meeting, and they may not get what they need out of that meeting. This is ideally so that there's a win-win for both people. Now, in a perfect world, everybody would have these skills and everybody would be able to communicate with other people with ease. But we know that most people do not take the time to become the best versions of themselves. That's why you're the exception. That's why you're special. That's why you are different. Most people will just go through life, just this is who I am, right? And they don't grow. They don't care, or they don't choose to invest in any kind of growth mindset into becoming the best version of themselves. And it's really sad, because I think a lot of people grow up their whole life and even die really with untapped potential, with untapped abilities, with they could have had a bigger impact, influence, and left a bigger mark, but they just didn't invest in their own growth. And here's the thing, that never ends. I wish I could say, well, I've been doing this work for 28 years and I have arrived. Not so, right? It's almost like every 5 steps you take, you go, oh, well, there's 5 more ahead of me. We're always growing, we're always evolving. And now what's also really interesting about the DISC is that this changes over time. So unlike your Enneagram, which is a little bit more like your DNA, it's just who you are and you're born with it and it stays that way forever. This will change, particularly after major life circumstances or like a large event or just growing up. So when I first took the test, when I was in my early 20s, and I came back like D and literally, dropped and nothing else. I went back after I had gone through my domestic violence divorce, after I had gone through my daughter's cancer, probably about, I don't know, like 15 years later, 18 years later. And I did the test again. And I came back that I was still super high D, but I had a lot of I that had come up. And then it kind of, tapered off. I didn't have any S or C. And that really surprised me. Because the way I communicated had changed. The way I showed up had changed. I had mellowed out quite a bit. I had different, I had had a lot of different experiences that just kind of changed how I started to show up in the world. I relaxed a little bit. I was a little bit more fun. I was a little bit more connected with people. I wasn't so rigid in having to be this really high D, right? Now, sometimes what happens, and we just had somebody in our community do this. We did the training yesterday on the Connect event. And she took the test and posted in our private group. And she said, oh gosh, what was she? She was she crossed the line. So I forget, it was I think an an SD, which I was like, so if you have somebody who is like they got a D or an I, and then one of the S's and the C's together as like, this is their number one and this is their number two, or they're really close, that's unusual. That's where you cross the line. Now, I will say in 28 years, I've coached over 1,000 women. I've only had one person ever on my team that took this assessment and came back like 25, 25, 25, 25. I was like, oh my gosh, like, how is that even possible? That was like a unicorn, right? That she was really able to be in all these 4 quadrants. Most people are really high in one and then they have like a second one, right? But usually they don't cross them. Sometimes they do, but they usually don't cross because there's different speeds, there's different connections. So it's really interesting because, as somebody like for me, who I just have one really, really solid one, it's interesting when you have people who can really be on both sides. And again, to me, that really shows an adaptability, which is a great gift, right? When you can kind of adapt and you can be on all it, able to be in all of the places and still feel comfortable. And I will say, people with high communication skills, particularly if you want to be in a leadership position or if you want to be in a management position, like you want to lead a team of people or you want to lead a community or something, your being uncomfortable is okay in order to make other people feel comfortable. So if I'm coaching somebody or I'm working with somebody, it's okay for me to feel uncomfortable if it means that she's going to feel more comfortable so that she'll be in a place to be able to receive the training, the education, the coaching, or the mentorship, right? Because that's ultimately what we want. We want to be able to have impact and influence and inspire somebody else to, move in a place that's going to serve them, that's going to be able to help them. And so, which is more important, that I'm comfortable or that she's comfortable? If my goal is to make an impact and to help move somebody and to mentor somebody, then it's more important that she's comfortable so she can have that movement, so she can have that growth, so she can get to the level that she wants to be in. So I will do so. To kind of recap, I did a like 10-minute little mini training on this yesterday during the Hey Girl You Can Connect and Network event. And if you don't know what that is a once a month event that we do within our community. You do not have to be a member. We do have tickets on Eventbrite that you can come if you just want to do like a one and done. We show up on Zoom and we network and connect with each other. I love when people come because I will tell you, after almost every single one, I get a message from somebody who says, that was the best online networking event I've ever been to. I do think, and this is kind of sad, because I've been to them. I've been to a lot of online networking events and they are not all great. And so if somebody goes to that, they go to a different one and they don't have a great experience, that they think, oh, that's what all online networking is. And I would encourage you, if that has happened to you, that is not the case. You just have to find your right group, the group that vibes with you, that has the right style, that the person who's running it is a style that you like. And sometimes that's digging around a little bit, right? It's kind of like dating. Like you got to find different people to find the one that's going to be the right fit for you. So I really appreciate that people always say this was the best one I've ever been to. And I could attribute that to the fact that we have such incredible women in our community. The women are so phenomenal. So we do that once a month. So I did a 10-minute training on this last night during our event. And I will download that recording and get it onto YouTube today. So if you go back today or tomorrow, there'll be a little bit more in-depth training on that. And then tomorrow we'll have our entire grow class is going to be all really deep training on this, on how to determine your style, how to determine other people's style, how to communicate with people who have different styles than you, what are the key things to know about each one, so that you'll feel really equipped in that when you're talking with somebody, not only will you know, okay, this is how I'm being perceived, but this is how they need to communicate and how do I adjust and what are the things that are important to them. And so I'm really excited for this because I think that it will open a door for a better understanding for all of our members on not just in their professional life, but in their personal life. And again, this is all about, how do you get a step closer to the best version of you? How do you get a step closer to the version of you that is really living life fully and receiving all of the blessings that are intended for you? Right. And so that is stepping out of our comfort zone and growing and developing skills. And that is a never ending journey, never ending, and stepping into it. So we're going to take that step tomorrow. So if you are not a member, there is still time to join. You can join and you can join me live. If you are watching this and you're like, well, that was a few months ago or a year ago, all of our training is recorded. It goes into our Hey Girl You Can library and it stays there. So when you join, you get all of the training from when we started. So, you get all of the classes, all of the training, all of the workbooks, all of the drops that happen every single month. So you'll still have access to it. You just go back in and you'll look for the July 2025 training and it will be there. Okay. So I really love that. So if you have questions on this, so number one, if you know your style, if you've taken the test and you know if you're a DISC, drop that in the comments. I would love to hear if you know who you are. And if you haven't and you want the assessment that I use, then just in the comments, put DISC or DM me. I will send you the link to the one that I use. Again, it's free. And if you're like, hey, I think I need to know more about this, I'd love to know in the comments your thoughts on this. Do you think this is important? Do you think it's important to know? Why or why not? If you feel like I sometimes struggle with my communication, or I've been with people where sometimes I feel like they don't get me, or they aren't hearing me, or I know sometimes people don't, I know like I'm off putting to people. It could simply be that you're just speaking a different language, and learning how to adapt to their language will serve you so well in life. So thanks for hanging out with me. I can't wait to read your comments. Um, I will get that to you. Yes, I see it dropping in the comments. I will send you the link. And then you'll have to tell me what you are when it comes back. Okay. So if you take the DISC test, come back and comment and tell me what you are, because this is such a good, and I have to say in full transparency, when I did the thing last night, I thought, oh, this was the first one I ever took out of all the training that I've had on all the different, personality things. This was like the very first baby one that I took. So I thought, this might be a lot of repeat for a lot of people. People probably all know this. And one thing that I struggle with, again, even just within our Hey Girl You Can community, is that because I've been in 28 years of this type of work, I assume that what I know, everybody knows. And I have to say, on our group last night, there was not one person who had taken the test and knew what they were, which was shocking, absolutely shocking to me. I was like, really? You guys don't know what you are? Because this is such a eye-opening tool that will change how you communicate with people, and how you realize like why you communicate the way that you do. And I also think that most of us, at least I do, we all think that everybody's like us, right? Like I all think that you all know what I know, even though it makes sense to me logically when I step back and go, yeah, but you've had 28 years of training in this. Not everybody's had that, right? Just like if I went to your job, like I wouldn't know what your job was because I don't do what you do, right? But we all assume that people are like us. We assume that they think like us, that they react like us, that they act like us. And so even just the training of like, oh, that's how other people communicate. Oh, that's how other people think. Oh, that's what's important to other people. It kind of gets us out of that little narcissistic brain of ours that goes, well, everybody is like you. And when they're not like you, we get frustrated, right? When people don't act the way we would act, or don't show up the way we would show up, we get frustrated, we get disappointed, we get hurt, we get angry. And so even just being able to have this tool of understanding, well, different people communicate different ways, allows us to give more grace to people. That it's not that we're speaking the wrong language, or that we're not speaking correct English. It's just, well, they're speaking Spanish and you're speaking English. It's not that. Do you know what I mean? And so that itself is really, really valuable. So thanks for hanging out with me. I will be back on Friday, our session Friday. I do not know what it is off the top of my head. If you go to my LinkedIn, or you go to my Facebook page, though, under the events tab, I have the next 4 sessions coming up. So if there's one that looks like it would be really great for you and serve you, make sure you RSVP. This is the free workbook on the 20 questions to change your life. So if you want to grab that, you can grab that here. And I'll see you guys on Friday. And I'll get you your DISC for the people who are commenting. Bye, guys.